Part 1. My name is Natalie, and I grew up believing that nothing was stronger than blood, especially the bond between sisters. But my sister, Rachel, she proved me wrong in ways I never could have imagined. It all started the night of our father's funeral. The air was heavy with grief, and silence hung between us like a curse. Rachel hadn't cried once. Not during the ceremony. Not when they lowered his casket. Not even when Mom collapsed into my arms, shaking with loss. She just stood there, like a statue, and unreadable. We hadn't seen each other in years. Not since she moved out of state after high school. She left without saying goodbye, and never looked back. But when I saw her again that night, I felt a strange chill run down my spine. Not because of grief, but because of the look in her eyes. She wasn't mourning. She was calculating. Rachel had always been the brilliant one. Straight-A student, Ivy League scholarship, Dad's favorite, and I was the soft one. The artist. Mom's shadow. I'd always admired her, even envied her. But I never hated her. Not until she gave me a reason to. That night after the wake, she pulled me aside. "Natalie," she said calmly, "we need to talk about the house." I blinked. "The house? Our inheritance," she corrected. "There's no point in dragging things out. Let's sell it. Sell our childhood home." The place filled with memories of Dad. Of Christmas mornings and birthday parties. Of our childhood laughter echoing through the halls. "I'm not selling it," I told her firmly. Rachel's face barely moved. But her eyes, they darkened. "This house isn't yours," she said. "It belongs to both of us. And I need the money." That's when I realized. She hadn't come home to mourn. She came home to collect. I refused to sign anything. And that's when it began. The subtle war between us. Started with letters from lawyers. Then voicemails laced with veiled threats. Then a notice of eviction, claiming I was squatting in her property. I was stunned. How could my own sister turn on me like this? I called her. She didn't answer. I emailed. I texted. Nothing. Until one night, there was a knock at the door. Rachel. Standing there in a sleek black coat. A man behind her in a suit, holding a briefcase. "I tried to do this nicely," she said. "But you've made this complicated." I felt my stomach drop. Complicated? Yes. "This is our father's house, Rachel. He would never want this." She raised an eyebrow. "Really? Because according to this..." She nodded to the man beside her. "There's no will." "What are you talking about?" I whispered. "Dad had everything in writing. We sat with him." Rachel cut me off. "Apparently. He never filed it." She smiled coldly. "So legally, this house is community property. And I have every right to liquidate it." I was speechless. I knew what she was doing. She was using her power, her knowledge, her charm, to erase me. And worst of all, she was doing it legally. But I wasn't ready to give up. I started digging. Through boxes, oars, emails, looking for the signed will I knew had to exist. Days turned into nights. Sleep vanished. My art studio gathered dust. I became consumed with proving what I knew was true. Until I found it. Tucked inside an old family photo album. A scanned document labeled, Will and PDF. Dated 6 months before Dad died. Opened it. My heart racing. Dad had left everything. Me. Everything. The house. The land. Even his retirement account. There was no mention of Rachel. Not one word. I couldn't believe it. I should have felt vindicated. But instead, felt nauseous. Why would Dad cut Rachel out? Completely. I printed it. Sat with it. Stared at it for hours. Then the doorbell rang. It was Rachel. And alone this time. I didn't know whether to slam the door or let her in. But something about her face. "Look. Here. Hello. I need to talk to you," she said softly. I didn't say anything. Just stepped aside. She walked in like a ghost. her heels clicking softly against the wooden floors. She didn't look around, didn't acknowledge the familiar space, just sat down and said, "Dad hated me." "Didn't he?" I froze. "What?" "He left you everything," she said. "No explanation. No goodbye. Just cut me out." I sat down across from her. "You knew." She laughed bitterly. "I'm the one who helped him draft it." "What?" I whispered. She leaned back. "After I left town, I made some bad choices. Dad bailed me out of a situation I won't repeat. He said he'd help me one last time, but he wanted the house to stay in the family. Your hands, not mine." She paused. I agreed. Thought I didn't care, until he died. And I realized how alone I really was. For a moment, she didn't look like my enemy. She looked like my sister. Vulnerable, regretful. But then she said something I'll never forget. "I didn't come back for the money." At first. I stared at her. At first. She looked up. "But when I saw the house again, when I saw you, still here, still the favorite," something snapped. My breath caught in my throat. "Rachel." I stood. "I needed you to feel what I've felt my entire life." I shook my head. "You were Dad's favorite." She laughed coldly. "No, I was his trophy. You were his heart." I didn't know what to say. She turned to leave. And just before she stepped out, she looked back and said, "But you got what you wanted, didn't you? The house, the truth, the crown." The door closed behind her, and I just sat there, holding the will, but feeling like I'd lost everything. Do you think family betrayal cuts deeper than any other kind? Comment below and tell me. Have you ever been betrayed by someone who shares your blood? Part 2. The days after Rachel left were quiet. Quiet. I walked through the house like it belonged to someone else. Every photo on the wall, every scratch on the floor, held a memory that now felt corrupted. I had the will. I had the house. But it didn't feel like a victory, because behind every legal win, there was a loss I couldn't name. I thought it was over, that Rachel had finally accepted it, that maybe, just maybe, we'd never speak again. I was wrong. 3 weeks later, I got a call from the county office. A woman on the line said, "Hi, Ms. Carter. I'm calling to confirm the transfer request for 821 Brookstone Drive." My heart stopped. "That's my house," I said slowly. "I didn't request any transfer." The line went silent. Then she replied, "Well, someone did. And they used your name." I hung up, drove straight to the office. And there it was. File. Process. Flint. With my name forged on the bottom. My hands trembled as I flipped through the documents. A trust had been created, under my name, with Rachel listed as the executor. I couldn't breathe. She hadn't given up. She just changed tactics. I hired a lawyer immediately. And while they started the legal process, I started searching for something even more valuable. The truth. Because Rachel had said something in that conversation I couldn't shake. Dad bailed me out of a situation I won't repeat. I needed to know what she meant. So I started digging. Through old family records. Through emails. Even contacted one of Dad's old financial advisors. And then found it. A transfer. $75,000 sent from Dad's account to a private account in Miami. A few clicks later, I traced it to a man named Derek Roth, Rachel's ex. Suddenly, it all made sense. Rachel hadn't just left town for school. She left because she got involved with someone she shouldn't have. And Dad had cleaned it up, silently, to protect her. Kept digging. Found court records. Filed under a different last name. Rachel Monroe. She'd been arrested. Once. For fraud. Charges dismissed. And guess who paid the settlement? She'd never changed. She just got smarter at hiding it. But this time, she'd messed with the wrong sister. I called my lawyer and told him everything. He said, This is enough to file criminal charges. You want to move forward. I pause, and for the first time, I didn't know what I wanted. Do I punish her? Expose her? Destroy her like she tried to destroy me? Or do I let it go? Walk away? Finally be free? I sat with that question for 2 days, until I got a knock on the door. Not Rachel, a woman I'd never seen before. She looked nervous, clutching her purse. She's darting. "Are you Natalie Carter?" she asked. "Yes." She glanced over her shoulder, then stepped closer. "I'm Ava," she said. "I used to work for Rachel." I blinked. "Work for her?" I nodded. "She hired me to file paperwork, clean emails, make things disappear." My stomach dropped. "Why are you here?" She hesitated. "Because I saw the trust papers. And I know they're fake. And I don't want to go down with her." She handed me a flash drive. "Everything's on here. Emails, voice recordings, proof of forgery." I stared at it, then looked at her. "Why now?" She swallowed hard. "Because you didn't deserve this. And she's done it to other people too. You're just the first one who's fighting back." That night, I listened to every file on that drive. Rachel talking about options, moving assets, getting rid of loose ends. My hand shook. She wasn't just trying to take the house. She was trying to erase me. So I made my decision. I gave the drive to my lawyer. And we filed. Forgery, fraud, attempted identity theft. Rachel was arrested a week later. It was all over the news. Ivy League executive arrested in family inheritance scam. She was denied bail. Mom called me in tears. "Why didn't you just talk to her?" she asked. I didn't know how to explain it. That I had talked to her, listened to her, of her. But some people don't want reconciliation. They want revenge. And Rachel had made her choice. Enemy by choice. Even if we shared blood. She called me from jail. One time, I let it ring, then deleted the voicemail. 'Cause I finally understood something. Family doesn't give you the right to hurt someone. Loyalty isn't owed. It's earned. What would you do if the one person who should have had your back tried to destroy you instead? Part 3. Rachel stayed in county jail for 6 weeks. Not a day went by that her name wasn't in the headlines. News anchors called her the inheritance con queen. Commentators debated whether she was cold or just desperate. But I knew the truth. She was both. Behind the flash drives, the fake documents, the scams, she was still just that same girl, hungry to be seen, even if it meant destroying everything in her path. And now, she'd finally been seen, but not in the way she wanted. I tried to move on. I painted the guest room, donated Dad's old suits, started attending therapy. But peace never lasts long. When you share blood with chaos. 2 weeks before her trial, I received a certified letter from her lawyer. I almost tossed it in the trash. But curiosity, that old familiar tug, wouldn't let me. Opened it. Inside was a single handwritten page. Rachel's handwriting. Still elegant. Still careful. Like she was crafting a performance. "Dear Natalie, there's something you don't know. About Dad. And about me. If you really want the truth. Meet me. 1 hour. County Jail. Visitor Wing C." I stared at the letter. Longer than I cared to admit. I wanted to burn it. But I showed up anyway. Visitor Wing C. Smelled like bleach and regret. She walked in with cuffs on her wrists. But her chin was still lifted. Still proud. Still Rachel. "Natalie," she said. Almost warmly. "Get to the point," I said coldly. I sighed. I lied. About a lot of things. But not everything. I folded my arms. "You forged documents, tried to steal our house, humiliated the family. What else could there possibly be?" Leaned in. "Dad didn't just give me that money. He gave it to both of us. but in different ways. I blinked. What do you mean? He left something else, she whispered. In a separate will. The one you never saw. That stopped me. 'Cause I'd been through every document. Every file. There was no other will, I said. She smiled. Bitterly. Exactly. Because I destroyed it. I nearly stood up. You what? She looked away. I suddenly wet. He wrote it 6 months before he died. After I came clean about Derek. He said he wanted to even the playing field. That he owed me. For letting you be the favorite all your life. My mouth dropped open. That's not true. He nodded. He left me the lake house in Vermont. And a trust fund. Nothing insane. But enough to feel seen. I was shaking. Why didn't you just tell me? She laughed. Bitter, hollow. Because by the time I got the letter, he was dead. And I knew what it would look like. The black sheep. Suddenly finding a secret will. I leaned closer. I destroyed it. Because I wanted to force my own way into your life. I wanted you to see me as someone powerful. Not someone begging. I stared at her. This wasn't just revenge. It was identity. She didn't want money. She wanted meaning. Somehow, I'd become the symbol of everything she thought she lacked. Rachel, I whispered. You could have told me. We could have split it. Talked like sisters. She shook her head slowly. We were never sisters, Nat. Not really. You were the heir. I was the shame. That broke me. Not out of guilt, but out of grief. Because that's how she'd seen herself. All this time. I'm sorry, I said quietly. Her eyes widened. You're sorry. He nodded. Not for what I did. But for what Dad never gave you. He protected you with silence. And punished you with the same. She looked away. But I saw the crack in her armor. For the first time. Rachel looked. Not dangerous. Not manipulative. Just human. I'm testifying against you, I said finally. Her shoulders slumped. I know. But I'll also tell the court. That you tried to come clean. She looked up. And the other will. Is it? Your actions burned that bridge. The trial began the next week. I sat in the courtroom every day. Heard every charge. Listened to her defense. Watched her attorney paint her as the neglected child. The misunderstood daughter. And maybe that was partly true. But trauma isn't a free pass to betray. The jury took 4 hours. Guilty. Sentenced. 3 years. Minimum security. On the ride home. I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate. Just breathe. For the first time in years. I was no longer tangled in her chaos. No longer chasing her approval. Or fearing her betrayal. I was free. But I still ask myself. If someone carries your blood. But poisons your peace. Do you cut them off? Or try again? Part 4. 3 months after the trial. I thought the silence would feel like peace. Didn't. Felt like a scream in slow motion. Rachel was gone. Locked away in a minimum security facility 2 states over. But her shadow. It lingered in every room. In the photo albums she used to mock. In the guest bedroom she tried to steal. In the garden Dad built for us when we were kids. I couldn't scrub her out. Even if I wanted to. One afternoon. While folding laundry. I found her necklace. A tiny silver star she used to wear during college. I'd forgotten I had it. I sat on the edge of my bed. Holding it in my hand. And that's when the call came. A restricted number. I picked up. Hello. There was a pause. Then a soft voice. Natalie. My throat closed. Rachel. Yes. It's me. My hand gripped the necklace tighter. This is against the rules, I said. I know. She whispered. But I had to hear your voice. My stomach twisted. You're not supposed to contact me. I'm being transferred, she said quickly. Out of state. Possibly federal. I blinked. What? Why? She hesitated. Because of something I said to another inmate. About Dad. And the will. And some assets. My heart dropped. What did you do now? It wasn't on purpose, she said. It just slipped. I stood up. You told someone in prison about our father's finances? She sounded breathless. I didn't name names. Just details. Dates. Family secrets. I couldn't breathe. Rachel. Are you trying to get killed? No, she whispered. I'm trying to matter. The line went dead. I sat there for what felt like hours. What else had she said? What else did she still have power to ruin? At night, I locked every drawer in the house, pulled out the old safe, and checked all my files. And that's when I noticed one of Dad's property deeds was missing. The lake house. But I thought that wasn't part of the probate case. I checked again and found a duplicate, forged, with my signature. My knees buckled. Rachel hadn't just stolen money. She'd stolen my name. And now, someone else might be using it. I called my lawyer at midnight. He told me calmly, this could get ugly if she leaked this info. And someone tries to claim the house. You'll be tied to it, even if you're the victim. I felt like the floor disappeared. My sister wasn't done with me, not even from a cell. The next morning, a letter arrived in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photograph. Me and Rachel, at age 10, holding hands at the county fair. On the back, a single sentence. Blood doesn't forget. I reported it to the police. They took it seriously. But unless Rachel confessed, there was no way to prove it came from her. I changed my locks, installed security cameras, started sleeping with the hallway light on. But the real fear wasn't about being hurt. It was about being erased. Because that's what she'd always wanted. To rewrite our story in her favor. To wear my life like a costume. I finally visited Mom's grave. I hadn't been in years. I stood there, unsure of what to say. Then I whispered, I tried, Mom. I really did. And for the first time, I cried without guilt. Because I realized, Rachel's war wasn't about winning. It was about not losing alone. 1 week later, I got a call from Rachel's case manager. She'd been transferred, isolated. After another inmate tried to attack her, she was now under non-contact status. That meant she could no longer call, write, or reach me in any way. Not unless I gave permission. And I wouldn't. That night, I slept 8 hours straight for the first time in months. But in the morning, there was one more letter. This time, from a lawyer, claiming to represent a third party with interest in the Vermont property. It wasn't over. Rachel had made sure of that. Even from behind bars, she was still playing the game. Still pushing the knife. Even if she couldn't twist it herself. But this time, I wasn't scared. I was ready. Part 5. I stood in front of the courthouse. In the same place I watched Rachel fall from grace. But this time, I wasn't here to witness her downfall. I was here to protect my name. And Dad's legacy. Because the legal notice I received wasn't just some petty claim. It was real. An investor had filed interest in the Vermont Lake House, using documents that bore my forged signature. I walked into my attorney's office, and he looked at me with that careful, professional sympathy, like he already expected me to break. I need to fight this, I said. He nodded. You can. But it won't be cheap. Or easy. Neither was surviving her, I whispered. 2 weeks later, I was in court again, across from a clean-shaven man in a dark suit, claiming he bought the deed from someone who'd inherited it. A woman. Named R. N. Caldwell. Rachel Natalie Caldwell. She'd used my middle name. To mimic me. Forge identity. Sell the only untouched property my father left. The lake house wasn't just real estate. It was his dream. The place he wanted to retire. And where Mom had spread the ashes of their first lost baby. Before Rachel and I were even born. I clenched my fists in court. As the buyer rattled off proof. Paperwork Rachel must have spent years piecing together. My lawyer stood up calmly. She is not R.N. Caldwell. That's my client. Her sister used her name fraudulently. While in prison, the judge leaned forward. You're claiming your incarcerated sister committed this sale? From within state custody? Yes, I said firmly. Because she never stopped trying to be me. Even behind bars. The buyer was silent, then said softly, she told me it was her father's dying wish to pass it down to her. Not you. Said you had turned your back on the family. I wanted to scream, but I didn't, because I had something more powerful than rage. I had truth, and the court had evidence. Within a week, the claim was dismissed. The buyer backed off quietly, likely embarrassed, likely bribed by Rachel with more than just fake papers. But the damage had already cracked something in me. Rachel had tried to take everything, not just my childhood, not just Dad's money, but my identity. I flew to Vermont the next day. Stood alone at the edge of the lake. The house was still there. Still untouched. The porch light flickered from disuse. I walked inside with the spare key I never thought I'd use. Dust coated everything. But the air smelled familiar. Like pine wood. And ash. And memory. I stood in the living room. And remembered being 9 years old. Rachel and I had played hide and seek here. She once hid in the crawl space for 20 minutes just to scare me. I cried for hours. And she laughed like it was the best joke of her life. That was her way. She didn't want connection. She wanted reaction. She wanted power over fear. I walked upstairs, opened the bedroom window, and let the wind in. That's when I heard the voicemail. I didn't even know my phone had rung. But when I checked, there it was. A 2-minute message from the prison. From Rachel. She had found a loophole. She wasn't supposed to call. But the message was pre-authorized, because of a legal clause she triggered months ago. So I sat down and listened. Natalie, if you're hearing this, guess it's over. The house, the deed, the buyer, all of it. Her voice sounded tired. Like someone pretending they had nothing to lose. I didn't want it for the money. I wanted it because I thought maybe, if you didn't have it, you'd finally know what it's like to be me. My eyes burned. I know you hate me. And I deserve it. But I need you to know something. She paused. I never meant to hurt Dad. I was just so angry he gave you everything. His name, his love, his trust. I whispered under my breath. You burned it all to the ground. Rachel kept talking. But I remember the lake house too. I remember the day Mom cried on the deck. When you were still a baby. She said she was scared she'd lose another daughter. I didn't know what she meant then. But I do now. The line crackled. I hope you keep the house. Not because I want you to have it. But because it's all that's left. Of what we could have been. Then her voice broke. And Natalie, if you ever forgive me, don't tell me. Just live better than I did. Maybe. That'll be enough. Silence. I sat on the floor for over an hour. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just breathed. 'Cause for the first time, she didn't lie. She didn't manipulate. She just surrendered. And it didn't change anything. But it ended something. The next day, I began restoring the house. Not for her. Not even for Dad. But for me. Because for years, I'd been cleaning up her chaos. Covering her damage. living in response to her destruction. For now, I was choosing construction, painting the walls, fixing the leaks, planting flowers where weeds had choked. Each act of repair felt like reclaiming a piece of my soul. A month later, I received a letter from a woman named Lila. She was Rachel's therapist, volunteer-based, part of a correctional rehabilitation program. "I wanted to tell you," she wrote. "Rachel has stopped speaking about revenge. She talks about guilt now. About you. About wishing she could undo the last decade. She started journaling. And she keeps a photo of you in her notebook. Not to mock, but because she says, 'This is who I was supposed to love better.'" I stared at that letter and felt something I never thought I would. Goodness, not pity, not forgiveness, just grief. For the sister I never got, for the memories we never made, and for the love she kept refusing. Weeks turned to months. The house came alive again. I started hosting art retreats there. Women who'd survived betrayal, sisters, mothers, friends, all looking for peace. And I told them stories, not about Rachel, but about healing. Because if trauma is inherited, so is resilience. One morning, got a package, no return address. Inside was a small music box. I opened it, and it played a lullaby, soft, haunting, familiar. I remembered it. It used to sit on Rachel's nightstand, next to her journals, taped to the inside of the lid. Note: let go, but never forget. I don't know if it was her, or her therapist, or someone else trying to give me closure, but it worked, because I placed the box on my new nightstand, not as a reminder of pain, but as proof that even the deepest wounds can become reminders of how far you've come. Rachel and I may share DNA, but we do not share destiny. She chose destruction. I chose rebuilding. She lived in anger. I chose grace. Maybe that was the difference all along. She needed me to lose, so she wouldn't feel alone. But I didn't need her to suffer, to finally feel free.